One. It's a quick recording of what I call the QuickBooks Online Triangle. This is how my vision of the QuickBooks architecture. One of the things you have to remember with QuickBooks is everything that we do for reporting purposes. So you need to record the data entry the proper way in order to get the proper reports out. So this is my handy vision of the QuickBooks architecture. I don't talk about the employee module because these are the different modules. You aren't using that, and therefore it's not part of this discussion. So QuickBooks is divided up into the donors or grantors, could also be customers module, vendors module, and then those both feed the financials. And of course, QuickBooks is a financials module. But you also want to track activity by donors and grantors, and you want to track activity by vendors to a lesser extent. Now, if you are only using the financial module, you can only run the statement of financial activity, which is also called a profit and loss statement or an income statement if you are a private company, or the statement of financial position, which is called a balance sheet if you are a private company. Those are the only two reports you get out of the financial side. Though it's not really a lot of data. For management purposes, the donor-grantors reports are these, which tell you various reports about how your pledges are running, how much money you've taken in, who's given you the money, and so forth. That is all done up here in the donor-grantor module. The vendor modules, again, probably not as important to most nonprofits, but nevertheless, and it gives you this information that you need to know, particularly the expenditures by grant and program and so forth. So we go back up and we look at the QuickBooks architecture. So if you post something to a donor grantor using an input form, the information is automatically posted to the financials. And if you post something to the vendor side, it is automatically posted to the financials. However, if you post it to the financials, this is a one-way trip. It does not go back up to the donor grantor, and it does not go back up to the vendors. Obviously, this is pretty important because that means that if you're posting things down here, and I'm going to show you how that works in just a second, then you are missing out on a lot of reporting. If you go into QuickBooks, there is a new icon. I don't particularly like this picture, but there it is. And then you have customers, which you would also call donors, vendors, employees, other, which you and I would call financials at this point. And this is where you can select the appropriate input form to use. Well, so up here in our donor grantor, we're looking at sales receipt, which is where money comes in and you want to give someone a receipt, and that records it against the donor or the grantor. Somebody promises to pay you for one reason, that's a pledge. Could be an invoice if they perhaps they purchased something from your organization, t-shirts, I don't know. And then later, of course, you have to receive the payment for the invoice. On the vendor side, you have an expenditure or a check. A bill is a little bit like a promise for you to pay. You're recording the fact that you owe someone money, but you're not going to pay it right away. If I gave you a bill for $1,000 and said you don't have to pay me for 2 months, you probably would want to record the fact that you owe me the $1,000, but you don't want to pay it immediately. That's what a bill does. A check simply records it in a certain format. Obviously, checks have certain formats, and expenditures are kind of the Swiss Army knife of vendor posting, and that it will post just about anything, including a check if you wish. And again, the data comes down, and then a deposit form is filled out, or a journal entry is filled out, or a transfer of funds is filled out. Those are the three that generally happen in the financial side. When these come down here, they automatically create a journal entry behind the scenes. The reason this is so important is that you must use the right right input form in order to get the right reporting that you want to see. And that's why this is so important to you in terms of what this architecture is. So back up to the top, donor grantor module, those input forms will automatically update the financials for you, and the vendor forms will automatically update the financials for you. But if you include a financials form, for instance, a journal entry, it will not update the donor grantors. It will not update vendors for you. So that's the appropriate way to post in QuickBooks. Thank you.